All right, I'm going to teach you guys something real quick about just pressure and problems. Anybody had a little pressure lately, a little stress? Nobody had any stress? Anybody had any pressure or stress? A little bit? So this is important, and I'll talk about this. This is like a life-changing thing to look at. I want you guys to look at it this way. So let's say we talk about pressure, right? What's pressure, you think? Stress, right? What else? Uneasiness. I mean, I was a couple nights last week. I have 8 flips out that weren't moving. Now I got like 4 of them in a contract. But I was thinking, this market's slowing down. I got lots and lots of money out in flips, my own money. I woke up in the middle of the night, couldn't sleep. Plus we had a Q1 that was tough. And so massive amounts of pressure. Okay? And so there's 2 ways that humans go with that. Okay? And it just comes down to how we see it, what we do, and what that is. And so I'm going to give you guys an example. You look at pressure in 2 ways in terms of how God does it. All right? You can have it as this pressure is punishment. What does that mean? In some cases, it is punishment. You're not doing what you know you need to do. Now, this is assuming that you're doing what you know you need to do. If you're not doing what you know you need to do, then guess what? That punishment's good. Why? It's designed to get you to do what? Do what you know you need to be doing, okay? There's something you've been avoiding internally in terms of skill set. A lot of times that's being exposed in the current marketplace. Make sense? And that's some way to look at which does happen, right? And so the other side of that, what you kind of look at, and what that is there's another way you can look at pressure. If you're doing the work, and there's many cases like us, for example, we're doing lots of work. I pretty much worked in a very long time, spending more money I ever spent. And last quarter was still getting crushed a little bit, right? In terms of conversion on like the listing side. And so there's a way to look at this as purification. What do you think that means? Yeah. So in many cases, I want you to understand the pressure you have, you can see in 2 ways. Either pressure is punishment or pressure is purification. What do you think that difference is? Yeah, no, I want you guys, so there's a way to frame this up and understand what it is. It's like, hey, if I have punishment, what tends to happen after punishment for most people? If they look at life, this real estate sucks, I'm getting flipped, my clients are leaving me, my clients are going to someone else, offers aren't getting accepted, my listings aren't selling, my listings are expired, right? I'm having the worst quarter I've ever had. Whatever the agent may have, this a lot of times looks as punishment, and that is a very, very bad outcome in many cases, right? Assuming you're doing the work. Does that make sense? But what comes with that a lot of times is this feeling of suffer. You guys with me on that? You ever felt that before? I have. Last quarter, there's a few times I woke up, I'm like, what the hell is going on, dude? All these flips won't sell, a lot of listings won't sell. Like, what is happening right now, right? And so you tend to put yourself in this place of suffering where it's like, man, why is this happening to me? Does this make sense? This is the way it looks at it. Why is this happening to me? There's another way to look at this in terms of what it has is you can have it as there is a place of pain. You can't avoid either one of these. And so pressure is going to lead to 2 things. Purification, but it comes through pain, or punishment, which is a way of suffering. You guys with me on this? What do you think the main differentiator in that is? What determines the difference between those 2? Yeah, and you've been through a lot this quarter, right? And so I'm going to have you consider that this last quarter for you was a way of God to help go through some purification of you and who you are as an agent, especially on the listing side in this current marketplace. And so what do you think determines the difference in 2? Same person, same pressure, same exact circumstance. What determines punishment or purification, you think? Which is what? The story you tell yourself about it. So I'm going to have you guys consider that pressure is inevitable, right? Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. Say it again. Pressure is inevitable, pain is inevitable, suffering is a choice. The choice of suffering comes down to the story of what? Why me? Why is this happening? Why? Because they haven't been able to correct the way they look at stories and look at what if God's purified me for right now, for the next version of me, the next level. And this comes from questioning your story and being real about, okay, what am I going through right now? What's happening right now? And how do I make sure I'm able to create a story that's much more powerful where God is purifying you for that next level of you? And in many cases, that's where I was able to go back and think, hey, what if God's purifying me? So last thing I want to do is go back and take some listings. Last thing I wanted to go back is talk to clients and deal with that stuff. But as I've done that, allowed me to see some things I couldn't see before. Hey, look, here's the macro market. Here's how we get prices down. Here's how we get more reductions. Here's how we get more corrections. It allowed me to really feel more empowered as God purified me through that process. Does that make sense? And so for us, it's very, very important to do. And so what drives that? You have to look at 2 things. Number 1, what do I want? Like, what do I truly want in terms of what? Outcome? Like, do I want to make it? Do I want to get through it? Do I want to get better? Or do I want to keep staying in the same cycle I've been over and over and over and over? Because a lot of times people tend to do the same exact thing they've done before, but expect different results. And this is all internal. You guys with me on this? This is skill set, mindset stuff, and what that is. And I'll tell you, as this marketplace is happening, what it's doing, the ones that are getting better are doubling down on their personal development and just purifying them in who they are as an agent, who they are as a leader, what they're going through in terms of all this stuff. How do I get better at a much faster pace? And it's like Alex said, if you're God and you want somebody to be patient in life, what are you going to do? What do you think? Put them through a lot of life that determines what that needs what? Patience, right? If you're God and you're creating these humans and having people be the version of them, if I want somebody to have patience, I want to put them through a lot of things that require them to do what? Have patience. I'll put them through something, want them to be the best they can in business. I'll put them through a lot of what? Pain and problems in business to allow them to grow through resistance and what that is. I want to grow my muscles, what I got to go through? Pain, right? Resistance consistently. And so I'm not going to be able to grow where I want with resistance, but what determines this, a lot of times people look at it as pain and suffering. What happens to growth? Goes down. Why? Because they feel themselves as a victim, right? Here, looking at purification, and that's driven by this thing of truth, of understanding, okay, here's what's happening, here's what the facts are, here's what's happening around me, where am I screwing this up? Where am I not getting price reduction where I need to? Where am I not pre-framing in the beginning? What's somebody else doing that's getting listings that I'm not getting done? Where's somebody else converting things at a higher level that I'm not getting done? Where am I not studying, learning, and doing the purification that God's driving me to do, where I'm just stuck here getting a punishment of what's happening? Make sense? One gets better, one gets out. Same exact scenario. Only thing driving the difference is the story. And so my goal, my job for you is to help empower you to create a story of purification that allows you to get where you want to the next level. Whatever ceiling you're getting into, and this is, I've experienced this firsthand this quarter, or last quarter, right? It's a purification in terms of who I want around me, how I want to operate, the level I'm operating with, the speed I operate, and the power which I'm operating. And I do think you're seeing a large shift in the industry in terms of agents that make it, agents don't make it. Ones that execute on it, ones that don't execute it. You guys with me on this? Like, there's a big difference in terms of what's happening and how things are going to be moved around on this chessboard. And the ones that embrace this and look for purification, what they do are going to have a much bigger, larger outcome on the back end. Does that make sense? One leads to a, and here's the deal. Sometimes there may have to be some contraction here. What does that mean, you think? Yeah, you're going to have to go worse to go better. You're going to have to go backwards for a quarter to be able to double down the next quarter. And so if you look back at these numbers, when you're looking at Q1 and what we talked about, you may have gone backwards a little bit. But the goal is to understand where's this contraction and what's God trying to get me to see that I need to see through contraction, allow me to get where I need to be, which is ultimately through purification at the highest, best version of me. The other version of people who live in this place of suffering and a story of victim, they tend to go to a place of collapse. Same pressure, same pain. One looks at it as a way to level up through purification. One goes through punishment. One person collapses, right? Gets out the business. One person contracts it, but then accelerates in a massive level in the next quarter, which makes a big difference. Make sense to you guys on that? And so that's something that's important to look at overall. And so all that is driven by, what do I actually want? Right? Where do I want to be at the end of 12 months? Where do I want to be at the end of Q3, Q4? Right now, Q2 is time to execute on it, but that's going to be driven by what I truly want at the end of Q3 and Q4. Does that make sense to you guys? But that's what starts with getting clear, and that's why we did what we did today, to talk about, okay, what do I truly want? What's my goal, what I want to have with that, which makes a big difference. Questions about that? Is that helpful a little bit? I think it's important to look at because everybody's going to experience pressure in Q2. You're going to experience pain in Q2. What I want you to be equipped with is the ability to reframe the story to get where you want. So even if you do have contraction, you're going to be able to grow and be purified into a much bigger, better version of you. Typically, that's doubling down on two things. Personal development, which is skill set, mindset. Okay? That make sense? I think it's something that's important to look at as well. Does anybody have any questions about goals?